Hey everyone, it's Wigaholic. Today we're going to do a video that's not going to be a review. I will show you some wigs, but this video is going to be about some of the stigmas and the issues that women, Caucasian women, have with wig wearing. A lot of us women don't do this by desire. It's done by necessity. We've had discussions in our groups about why people judge, look at us funny, stare, ask questions, touch our heads, and I want to go into that. So first of all, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, hit that little bell so that you get notified when we do new videos. And also you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and we have our own little wig group in Facebook called Wigaholics, so you're welcome to come in and join us. Today, I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I originally wore wigs in about 2012, never had great hair, and I had always wanted long hair and dyed it a lot, processed it a lot, but it was always really fine. So in 2012, I ended up having my hair severely damaged to the point that it all broke off. And so I started wearing wigs. Didn't know much about them. You know, I got the inexpensive ones and got charged way too much money for them. But that's what I did. So in the end of about a year ago, I started losing my hair. And it was a stressful time that I was going through. I'll go into in a few minutes about the other issues, but it would come out in clumps, and I could feel it in the shower. I could feel it running down my legs, and it would come out in clumps when I would comb it. And so I reverted back to wigs. Where I live, there are one or two very expensive designer wig shops, and the rest of them are all owned by Asian owners. Most of them are geared towards women of color, women of ethnicity. So there aren't a lot of options for someone who says, say wants to be blonde. Generally, they're either a really dark root or they're, real platinum blonde. And I didn't want to be all that. I was blessed to find one immediately that I could use until I got on Facebook and on YouTube and started the journey that I am now on. I tried the designer wigs first because I wanted something that looked more natural, spent a lot of money, wasted a lot of time, energy, and finally I wanted an answer as to why myself I was losing my hair. And I went to a doctor in my area, and he said, okay, I can do all these tests, but I want to also have your hormone levels checked, and I can't do that here. So I went to my doctor, Dr. Norman, in Myrtle Beach, and he tested my hormones. And I found out that procedures that I had had personally, one, my gallbladder was removed, and two, I had had an ablation, had basically drained my body of vitamin D, and my hormones were in the toilet. Plus, I'm at that age for menopause. And I had no idea that all of this stuff could contribute to hair loss. And he gave me this book, and I'd like to have every woman, if you can, read this book. Grab it. Great information. But in there, it explained to me why this was happening. Not only was it because I was under a lot of stress, genetics. My father was bald. My mother had very thin hair. But it was also things that I had done or procedures. And it all played a part in my hair loss. Now, for women that are not of color, and don't get me wrong, women of color have taught me 95% of the stuff I've learned about wigs. They are nicer to me when I am in the wig stores than people on the street. They are helpful. They are kind. They don't look at me twice. They'll tell me, hey girl, that's not yours? Oh my gosh, I can't tell. But they don't ask. They don't ask. It's very difficult for a woman who is losing her hair to, number one, first find a wig that they feel comfortable in or that makes them feel beautiful. It's either they get taken by somebody who's charging way too much money and giving you a substandard product, or they're selling you something secondhand that is severely damaged and you can't even use it. We've gotten taken a lot. Or you want a piece that looks like something like I have on, and you get a wig maker who is not licensed and is not trained and doesn't know how to color, and you get ripped off. So add that on top of the stigma of being a white woman wearing wigs, and you have a lot of issues. You have a lot of difficulty. For me, personally, being a white person who's wearing wigs, you get looks. You get people looking at you like, what's wrong with her? Is she sick? Does she have cancer? Is she going through chemo? Everybody always tends to think that, and I'm not going to say always. I shouldn't say always. A lot of people think that if you're wearing wigs, it's because you're sick or you have cancer. That's not the case. Some of us, it's genetics. Some of us, it's hormones. It's issues combined. And as we get older, let's face it, everything goes south. Our body changes. We lose muscle mass. Our elasticity in our skin. We get wrinkles. All of that happens. Add on top of it a majority of the women who are losing their hair as well. That's a lot to handle. There's also women who have alopecia, autoimmune diseases. And for us being white women, and because I can't speak for everybody else, we are treated as if what we're doing is just appalling, or it's bizarre, or it's weird, and it's not. We could go and get a boob job, or Botox, or cosmetic surgery, or tattooed eyebrows, and nobody thinks twice about that. But let us walk in with a different color hairdo from short to long, and everybody's staring, and everybody's talking, and everybody's like, oh, pss, 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 pss. And it needs to stop. Plain and simple, it needs to stop. A lot of us are going through this journey by no choice of our own, and we're just trying to find something that makes us feel beautiful. Because let's face it, our culture has centered around the idea of beauty, and hair is a huge part of that. You see all the ads with the models and the gorgeous hair and the gorgeous biolage. And for me, I want that too. But unfortunately, I can't have it naturally. Hence my journey with wigs. I asked the women in my group what are some of the things that they wanted me to tell you or to say or explain. And why, our question is why, a lot of times, why are we looked at as an albatross or, a freak because we are wearing wigs? And I had personally said, part of it, I think in our generation, because I am older, I'm 22. No, I'm kidding. I'm in my 50s. We grew up in a generation where, you'd see your mom wearing a wiglet or something and they wore the big hair. But everybody who wore wigs, as far as we knew, were women of color. And I'm telling you, girl, they have learned their craft. They have slayed wigs, they have colored them, they have styled them, they have made them, and they are good at it. And we, being women of not color, have pretty much, for the most part, been stuck into, originally Paula Young, and I'm not knocking Paula because I've had some Paulas and I like them. But we have not had the styles or the beauty of having a hair piece that looks natural. They're coming. They are coming. This piece for me, it looks and feels natural to me. But it's taken a while for me to get here, over a year. And it's a lot of trials and a lot of errors. Society looks at the African American ethnicity groups, and it's acceptable for them to, change their style up, change their wig up. They're comfortable with it, and maybe part of it is they own it, right? Because they do. I don't know personally. I can only assume that a lot of them don't have to do it because of hair loss. Maybe I'm wrong. Chime in. Leave it in the comments. Let me know. But they are gorgeous and beautiful, and they own it and they walk in it. While we are insecure, we are depressed, we are fearful of the reactions that we're going to get from those around us. Let alone let us find out that one of the girls at, the supermarket or church or work is wearing a different wig today, and we're going to sit there and look at her. Nah, not cool. Or going up to somebody because you figured out that they're wearing a wig and wanting to touch their head. There is nothing worse than somebody who has hair loss issues and is already insecure, and you want to go up and touch their head. Nothing worse. Unless, like, I had somebody that knew I had hair loss issues. She came up and she said, "Can I just touch that?" But she asked. She was respectful. And she knew it was something that I was okay with her doing. I've also had people, and I gotta say, in our wig groups, there are some vicious people. There are people who compete. It's very competitive, and I don't want to get into all the politics, but there are people who don't use common sense and will go on someone's personal page when we have these groups that are private, and they will say, "Oh, I love that hair," or "What is that one?" They don't think twice that this is a very private and personal issue for women. And I guess what I'm trying to say is the number one thing that women who are going through hair loss and going through this journey of wigs, for me personally, I can say this, and I think I speak for some other ones, is we want, number one, respect us. This isn't easy, and we're doing it with as much grace and as much class as we can. Number two, don't whisper and judge. You don't know what that other person's shoes feel like to walk in. Number three, if we're going through this, don't assume that we have cancer or we're going through chemotherapy, because there's many, many reasons that this can happen to someone. Number four, don't come up and touch our heads. Please, don't do that. Because if you do, I may take my wig off and put it on you. No, I'm joking. it's just, this is my comfort space. If I haven't personally divulged my information to you, be respectful of boundaries, be respectful of my possible insecurities, because we all have things that we're not comfortable with about ourselves. And when someone is zooming in on what you feel is your vulnerability, it's defeating to us. It's embarrassing to us, and it can be hurtful to us. So I'm trying to give you all insight into what it feels like to be going through this journey, so that you can not only be educated, but also empathetic, if not sympathetic, to our journey. It's not easy. It's expensive, and it's scary, and it's embarrassing, and it's hard. Getting into a little lighter thing than what we deal with, I think I'm going to cut this video down to this part and give you that to think about. Actually, no, I won't. Let's get into, with the journey, what you end up typically finding. So, you know, if you're a Caucasian person, when you first start out, a lot of us go to companies like, you know, Paula Young, and it's hard because you end up with a wig that is not always fashion friendly or hip or hop. I mean, it's an okay wig, but there's no pizzazz there. There's really not. And it's about, you know, $30, $40 for a wig like that. What's an issue we have? It doesn't look natural. Or then you could go into a designer wig, averaging $160 on up. Now, it's more natural looking. Definitely the coloring is more natural looking. It's a cute style, but a lot of them have very dark lace. Now, I know they're coming out with new lace, and this is exactly one of the issues I have with a lot of the designer and ethnic wigs. This is stiff, and it's not at all comfortable. It's not comfortable. So then we spend a lot of money on this. One of the issues we have, restock fees. Now, we know that companies, you know, have to make money, etc., but we end up losing a lot of money if we don't like a wig, because we have to resend it back, and we lose 15, 20, sometimes 30% on a restock fee. So it's also costly for us. It's not easy. We revert to buying secondhand. And that's one thing I would recommend for somebody who's on this journey. Buy it secondhand. Try it. If you like it, then you can buy it new. If you don't, pass it on to the next lady and let her try. Then we can go into wigs that are, for my better lack of a term, inexpensive wigs. This is one of them. I'll show you the short version first. It's a decent color, and it runs, you know, it's inexpensive, but the issue is the construction. So if we want to go with an inexpensive wig, we can get one that looks decent, but then we have a cap that's not realistic. I mean, it's pretty colors, but it doesn't look natural on me. It won't look natural on me. And then you can look at the lighter version or the longer version. Pretty colors, but the hair, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't last. So again, I'm going to go through more wigs. I'm going to have more expense, and I've got, you know, the thin top. This is, you know, one of the inexpensive wigs that you will find on these sites that are geared towards more of women of ethnicity. Pretty colors, very natural, but it's $30. It's not going to last. And, you know, then I'm out the money. Or I go to something that is like this. It's, you know, hand tied. And I'll go ahead and put this one on. Now, I'm not going to put it on yet. I'm going to show you this one. This one is a custom wig from New One Wigs. And I got it in a natural color. Didn't know that it would be difficult for my hairdresser to lift the color. I was blessed with my very good friend, Mandy Brooks, who is also a YouTuber, having worked with this hair before and giving me a natural color on it. She did a phenomenal job. The wig itself, close to $400 to $500, but it's still not 100% perfect for me. These are the issues as Caucasian women that we deal with. So now I'll go ahead and take this one off. And this one is probably a $30 or $40 wig. But this, you can hear it, very rough. And of course, that lace is not geared towards a Caucasian woman at all. It's a gorgeous wig, but then we get into this issue of the roots are too dark. Now this is a 4 root, but it's still too dark. And look at the lace. And this is so uncomfortable. So we not only have the issues of self-esteem or, you know, lack of, then we get into, and then we have to look at this in the mirror. We have to look, and we're faced with it every day, that this is what I'm stuck with on my body forever, unless I lose more, in which means I would have to go to a medical cap. Or then you have the option, if you have the money, to go to a custom piece like this one I purchased from the Hair Mama. And it's 100% hand tied, so you don't see any of that. But there are those of us who honestly cannot afford the expense of a piece like this. And it's hard. It's hard to see the women that I see in my group. We don't have the people who can, you know, slay a full lace wig and show us. The women that you see, 95% of the women that you see on YouTube have done this for years. So when they do it, it's zip, zap, fast forward, and they're out of there. And we don't have that. So I guess when it comes right down to it, this is some of the stuff you need to know. One, if you're new on this journey, that it's not just you. There are other people. Two, if you have someone in your life that is dealing with this, these are the issues we have. So Give us a break. Be supportive without being invasive. Accept us as if, you know, I was changing clothes, changing my clothing style, or if I got a boob job, or I don't know, lip implants, whatever. I mean, you may ask a question or two if something like that happened. I don't know how many of you would go up and ask somebody, hey, how's your boob job? You know, but there are some, I guess, that would do that, would walk up and simply say, hey, did you have a boob job? Long drawn out video, but accept us. Don't judge us. Don't laugh at us. Don't whisper about us. Wig companies, help us out. Not all of us have the luxury of being able to get a custom human hair piece. And being able to spend the funds to buy a, you know, designer label for a wig that may last 4, 5, 6 months, depending on the care of it, some longer. But if you can only afford that one, what happens then? These are issues, and they're issues we deal with daily. So, hey, think these things over, chew on them a little bit, and let them process. And then, the next time you see a lady wearing a wig and you can tell it is, just smile at her and tell her she looks pretty. That's all for now. I love you guys. You have a great day. Be blessed. And you know what? Love somebody today. Bye-bye. Mwah.